Okay, so we'll begin with the small invocation prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Vishnuprasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gauravakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Bangurlangayate Grimitra Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Om Sat Sat. Hare Krishna. So on the last 2 days we have been looking into the Gita Mahatmya verses 1 and 2, which was composed by Sripad Adi Sankaracharya, glorifying Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So what are the benefits that the person who is studying Bhagavad Gita would get? So we have been seeing those in the past 2 days. Yesterday we saw how, with all eagerness and seriousness, if somebody studies Srimad Bhagavad Gita, then the Supreme Lord Himself, He is going to take care of our past reactions. So He is going to nullify our past reactions. So that is a big guarantee which we can derive from the Gita Mahatmya. So today we will begin with the verse number 3. So before we proceed with the verse number 3, any questions that any of you have from the last session? In case you have, you can raise your hand. Okay, so I assume there are no questions. Let me share my screen. Okay, hope you can see the screen. Okay, so Avantika Mataji has dropped a message saying she wanted me to summarize yesterday's session. So rather than me summarizing the session, I would request any of the participants, if you can summarize yesterday's session, that would be great. Any volunteers? What was the last session that we saw? You can raise your hand up, anyone who wants to share. Okay, so let me only summarize. So yesterday we saw the verse number 2, where Adi Sankaracharya mentions that by studying Bhagavad Gita with all seriousness and sincerity, so the guarantee is that the Supreme Lord Krishna Himself, He is going to take care of our past reactions. So the reactions could be either sinful or pious reactions. And so we saw how accumulating either the punya karma or the papa karma are both problematic, because ultimately it is going to bind us to this material world, right? So Krishna is giving this guarantee So Krishna is giving this guarantee that he is going to um, take care of our past reactions. So we saw many pastimes, stories from the past, where, like for instance, the pastime of a South Indian Brahmana who did not even know how to read Bhagavad Gita, but he was so sincere. So he was so sincere that because his spiritual master had instructed, he wanted to try and understand Bhagavad Gita. So he was, with all sincerity, reading Bhagavad Gita, not knowing the fact that he was holding it upside down. He was not even aware that the literals that he was trying to read was upside down. But Lord Krishna, who incarnated as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he happened to be at that place, and he saw this person who was reading Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and he was profusely crying. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went and inquired this devotee, he mentioned to him that how merciful the Supreme Lord Krishna is, which he could understand by merely looking into the photo or the picture where the Supreme Lord Krishna is driving as a chariot driver for Arjuna. The Supreme Lord, who is the creator of this entire cosmic manifestation, he is sitting as a chariot driver and driving his devotee, Arjuna. So looking into that picture, this Brahmana automatically started crying. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu really appreciated this Brahmana, saying that you have understood Bhagavad Gita quite nicely. Right? So the understanding of Bhagavad Gita comes only by the reader's sincerity. So if you don't have any hidden agenda, no internal motives, and your motive is only to understand Bhagavad Gita and apply it in our practical life, then by all means, the Supreme Lord Krishna is going to help us. So that guarantee we understood from the past time. So that is just to give a summary of the last session. Okay, so with that summary, we will proceed further with today's session. Today's session being the verse number 3. As always, we seek the blessings of Shri Radha Krishna, the divine couple who are the eternal Supreme Personality of Godhead and his topmost devotee, Srimati Radharani. We pray to them and we seek their blessings so that we are able to understand Srimad Bhagavad Gita and apply it practically in our life. So we also can recite the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra in a mode of prayer. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Radha Krishna ki jai. Okay. So welcome to day 3. We will straight away get into the verse number 3. So as always, I will recite this verse line by line, and you all can repeat it. Verse number 3. Maline mochanam pumsam. Maline mochanam pumsam. Jalasnanam dine dine. Jalasnanam dine dine. Sakrad Geetamrita Snanam. Sakrad Geetamrita Snanam. Samsara Malanashanam. Samsara Malanashanam. Okay, so I request one of the participants to kindly unmute or raise your hand so that I can unmute you. You can read the translation. Who would like to read the translation? Okay, so Nagalakshmi Mataji, I will unmute you.
Namaste ji.
Hare Krishna.
One may cleanse himself daily by taking a bath in water, but if one takes a bath even once in the sacred Ganges water of Bhagavad Gita, For him, the dirt of material life is altogether vanquished.
Thank you, Nataji. Yeah, so such a nice verse, isn't it? It goes to show how beneficial it is to study Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavad Gita. As we all do on a daily basis, we all take bath, isn't it? At least we as Indians, we take bath once or even twice or thrice, especially when it is summertime, because we want it to be neat and clean, right? So why we take bath? Are we taking care of the internal cleanliness or external cleanliness by bathing every day? Obviously, it is external cleanliness, right? So, just like how by taking bath, we are going to be cleansed of all the impurities, and we all know how Ganges, river Ganges is so pure. It is mentioned in the Puranas that the river Ganges, it was flowing once in the heavenly abode. And then the origin of river Ganges is from the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord Vishnu. And the river Ganges from the heavenly abode, it was released and it came down to this material world, this earthly planet. And we know how Lord Shiva, um, he took the Ganges on his head so that it could be streamlined and passed down to the earthly planet. So that's how we received the river Ganges. The river Ganges is so pure. Why is it so pure? It is so pure because it has the capability to purify anybody who takes bath in that river. Right? So we all have so many contaminations. I'm not talking about external contamination. I'm talking about internal contaminations. Right? So we all have so much of internal contaminations. Briefly speaking, there are 6 contaminations mentioned in the Shastras: Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, and Matsarya. Right? So these are the prominent internal contaminations. So by taking a bath in river Ganges, it has the capability to purify us. How did it get that capability? So that is something which probably most of us doesn't know. Because any river water, if you go and contaminate it, obviously it is not going to have the power to purify us, right? Slowly, as many people who has done so many sinful activities go and take bath in river Ganges is also going to get impure. How come that river Ganges is retaining its purity and also able to purify us? Any thoughts? How come river Ganges gets that capability? Yes, Tamil Selvi Mataji, you can say.
Uh, by by taking bath by pure devotees, it gets cleansed up.
Thank you, Mataji. You are spot on. Right. So all the impurities that are there in Ganges gets repurified once a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord goes and takes bath. Right. So there were many devotees of the Supreme Lord Krishna who go and purify these rivers like Ganges, Yamuna, and so on. So that's how the river Ganges gets that purity. So just like that, by studying Bhagavad Gita even once, what happens? The dirt of material life is altogether vanquished. So what do we mean here? Dirt of material life. The exact Sanskrit word is samsara mala nashanam. Samsara mala is vanquished. Anybody would like to give their view here? What is the dirt of material life we are talking about here? Okay, so what does the word samsara mean? In Tamil, it means something different. right? Samsara means wife, but that's not the actual meaning here. Yes, Saudamini Chandra, you can unmute. Saudamini Chandra Mataji, you want to unmute? Okay, I think you are not able to unmute. Oh, sorry. So anyhow, the dirt of material life, which is being talked about here, samsara, which means the repeated cycle of birth and death. So that is what samsara means, right? So this cycle of birth and death, repeatedly, life after life, it is. We all know, especially coming from a Hindu background, I guess most of us. So we all know that the eternal soul, the spirit soul, it is not going to perish once we die. So we are going to have rebirth, right? So this has been happening from time immemorial. We don't know where we started. Millions and trillions of lives back, we all came into existence, and this cycle has been continuing ever since. The Shastras mention that there are 84 lakh species. 84 lakh. So, of which the living entities in the water, the aquatics, so they are 9 lakhs in count. Like for example, whale could be one of the living entity, shark could be another. So like that, there are 9 lakh living entities living in water. So if you count everything together, there are 84 lakh species. Remember, we all passed through each and every type of living entity. Once upon a time, we were a pig, we were a fish, we were a crocodile. We evolved over a period of time, and this life, we have got this valuable human form of life. Labdha sudurlabhamidau bahu sambhavan. That's what the scriptures say. Sudurlabham. To obtain a human form of life is so rare. It is not just durlabham, it's sudurlabham. It means so rare. Very, very rare. So, having got this human form of life, if we are going to again lead a life which is going to make us take our birth again and again in this material world, then aren't we not making use of our human life in an improper way? Ideally, the human life should be used for understanding God and go back to Him in that lifetime. So that is the ultimate purpose of a human life. So this dirt of material life, the samsara mala, is immediately vanquished by even once studying Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So that is the power of studying Bhagavad Gita. It is compared to mala. We know this term mala or malam, right? In Tamil as well, we have this term mala, which means the impurity which we all do in a washroom, right? So, question to you all. So, we all wake up in the morning and we attend to the nature's call. We go to the washroom. Do we stay back in the washroom forever? Would any one of you like to stay back in washroom? No, right? We go there for a purpose, then we come back as soon as possible, right? And this material world is also compared to mala. It is not a place for gentlemen. That's what Srila Prabhupada would often say. Why it is not a place for gentlemen? Because this is a place which is filled with miseries. Now you may be questioning me, what is this, Prabhu? You are sounding so negative, so pessimistic. Are we not supposed to have a positive outlook upon our human life? Why are you saying that this is a place of misery? I am not saying that. The Shastra is clearly stating this. Right? It is clearly stated that this place is called Dukkhalayam Ashashvatam. Shashvatam means something which is permanent. Ashashvatam means something which is not permanent. And it is and added to that, okay, so assuming it is not permanent but temporary, but can I lead a peaceful and happy life here always? No, that is also not possible, because this place is called Dukkalayam, place of misery. So this is the fact which is clearly stated in the scriptures. That's why it is also compared to Mala. So if you are an intelligent person, then you should not waste your time here trying to satisfy our senses, but rather try to make use of this human form of body, study Bhagavad Gita, get all the benefit, and try to get rid of the dirt of material life. So this slide explains in detail what is the dirt that we are talking about here. Why is it called a place of misery? Right? So Bhagavad Gita in turn gives answer to that question. So there is a very nice verse in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which talks about the real problems of life. It is said, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam. What are the real problems of life? 4 things mentioned here. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi. So Janma means birth, Mrityu means death, Jara means old age, and Vyadi means disease. Right? So most of us think that these are not real problems. Why should birth be a problem? After all, birth is something to be rejoiced. Right? It is definitely something to be rejoiced if you are a mom or dad or grandmother or grandfather. But what about the baby who has been residing in the womb of mother for 9 months? Assume we all are placed in a dark room, in a suffocating place for 9 months. Can you imagine residing in such a place? And added to that, the place is also not something which is rejoiceable. You are going to be bitten by worms within mother's womb, right? So the child is going to be troubled all along. And it is also mentioned in the scriptures, whatever the mother eats, if the mother is going to eat something spicy, the baby is going to suffer, right? If the mother is going to eat a pickle, the baby is going to suffer. So birth is not an ordinary thing. It is complete suffering. In Srimad Bhagavatam, which is one more scripture, which is very important scripture as well, it is clearly mentioned how in the 7th month, the baby in the womb of mother gets its consciousness. In the 7th month during pregnancy. And there are special souls, the babies in the womb of mother, who get the vision that I am going to be put into this material world, which is a place of suffering. So with a folded hand, some special souls who are about to be taken birth in this material world, with folded hands, the child prays to the Supreme Lord, saying, "Oh Lord, please don't push me out. Please take me back to your place. I don't want to take birth in this material world." So like that, the child in the womb of mother prays. But unfortunately, as the child takes birth, the child gets the warmth and love and affection of so many relatives. So it is put into illusion in this material world. So that's the unfortunate state of affairs. We all forgot how we suffered in the womb of mother. Outwardly, it may sound like a happy event, but definitely we all were suffering. So birth is definitely a suffering. What about death? We often see many people who pass away at night. Suddenly they get heart attack. Within 2 or 3 minutes, they pass away. Oh Prabhu, how can you say that death is a suffering? It was such a peaceful event. The person led a beautiful life. He had so much of wealth, such a nice family, and he did not suffer out of disease. He just passed away in a couple of minutes. Why are you saying that death is a suffering? I am not saying that death is a suffering. It's mentioned in the scriptures. In Garuda Puran, it is mentioned that when somebody leaves his body, the pain that one is going to undergo, it can be equated to 43,000 scorpions biting all together at the same moment. So that is the measure of suffering that one undergoes at the time of death. It could be death of Ambani, or it could be death of a poor beggar on the road. There is no discrimination in the eyes of the Lord. Everybody has to undergo this suffering. So that's why it is mentioned that death is a suffering. What about disease? Nobody likes to get disease, right? So we all suffered a couple of years back the great coronavirus. Unfortunately, how many of us remember coronavirus today? Probably not, right? We all forgot. So how even to get oxygen, which is freely given by the Supreme Lord, was also costing so much, right? So this is not an easy thing. It is really, really painful. And old age. Some of us in this call are young. Some of you are senior citizens. We all know, we have seen in front of our eyes, isn't it? Either we experience it ourselves or we have seen from the experience of others in our family that old age is not an easy thing. They wanted to enjoy, but their senses doesn't cooperate. They wanted to bite a nice savory, but they could not because they don't have teeth. So how difficult it is. And moreover, if you are living in a family, the elders, the senior citizens in the family, they don't get proper respect. The children, they are on their own, they have their own family. So literally, life of an old person can be compared to hellish life, unless you are Krishna conscious or God conscious. Having said all this, if somebody takes to the process of God consciousness or Krishna consciousness, none of these actually are sufferings. So that is the beauty, because the Supreme Lord Krishna is giving us the protection, right? So I saw one remark or a question in the chat: how to lead a disease-free life? Unfortunately, it is not possible. See, it's like this: we are in a place which is contaminated with virus. How much ever we try to escape, is it really possible that we don't get contaminated? Not really, right? So we all had this experience with COVID. I'm sure 99.99% of this people in this call, we all had COVID. So disease is something which we cannot escape. Whether we like it or not, it is going to hit us, right? Having said that, we can definitely take some precautionary steps in terms of leading a healthy life, eating a healthy food and all that, right? But beyond that, if it is in our karma that we have to suffer, then we will suffer. Nobody can stop that. So you can become strong enough to overcome, provided you have that that spiritual support, right? So most of the diseases, it's all in the mind. If your mind is strong enough, then you will be able to get through that tough period of time. So my own spiritual master, His Holiness Jayapataka Swami, who was an American by birth, but he has been leading a life of a sadhu for nearly 55 years. In the past 15 years, he has been suffering with many diseases. He had a stroke, he had paralysis, he had um, liver and kidney problems, was done with liver and kidney transplantation, he had skin cancer, whatnot. Any disease that you name, he had, right? But you would be surprised to know that in spite of suffering so much of material diseases, still his desire to serve the Supreme Lord Krishna did not reduce even a bit. He was traveling all along to different parts of the world and he was preaching Krishna consciousness. He was giving classes, whatnot. So that is the spiritual strength that somebody gets because of your surrender to the Supreme Lord. So if you are having good spiritual practices, you will be able to handle any challenges, even if it is a disease. Right? Okay. So we'll move along. And apart from these four real problems of life, the scriptures also mentioned about three different categories: Adhyatmika, Adibhautika, and Adidevika. I'm only going to give a brief information on this. I'm not going to spend too much time. Adhyatmika means the problems that arise from our own mind and body. Right? So we get diseases. So that is Adhyatmika Klesha. We get mental problems, family problems which affects our mental equilibrium. So that is also Adhyatmika Klesha. Right? So that is about Adhyatmika Klesha. Adibhautika, something which is a misery inflicted by other living beings. The other living being could be a mosquito, a fly, or neighbor who is staying next to our house. Right? So that is Adibhautika Klesha. And finally, Adidaivika Klesha, which means calamities occurring out of natural disturbances. Like, for instance, the flood, tsunami, earthquake. So all these are Adidaivika Klesha, on which we don't have any control. Right? So all of us in this call may be undergoing one or other problem out of these three, but for sure, everybody in this call have faced and will face birth, death, old age, and disease. Right? So this is why this material world is compared to Mala. Right? So I hope it is clear. Okay. Now, we heard the statement from Sripad Adi Sankaracharya that Bhagavad Gita, reciting Bhagavad Gita, even a little bit is going to deliver us from the sufferings in this material world. How is it possible? It is really possible because there are scriptural proofs. We know there are many Puranas. In fact, it is mentioned that there are 18 Puranas which are written by Vedavyas. 6 of them in the mode of goodness, in Sattva-guna, 6 of them in Rajoguna, and 6 of them in the mode of Tamoguna. Anyway, that's for an information. But one of the scripture in the mode of goodness is called Padma Purana. In that Purana, Padma Purana, there is a beautiful conversation happening between Lord Narayan and Lakshmi Devi. Right? So there, the Supreme Lord Narayan, he is talking about the life of a devotee by name Susharma. Right? The Lord is saying that, you know, Lakshmi Devi, Bhagavad Gita is not different from me. Lord Narayan is saying, Bhagavad Gita is not different from me. My 5 arms can be compared to the first 5 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. Lord Narayan's 5 arms are compared to first 5 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. Sorry, 5 heads. I'm sorry. 5 heads of Lord Narayan are compared to the first 5 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. And the next 10 chapters, they are actually compared to the arms of Bhagavad Gita. So basically, the arms of the Supreme Lord are compared to the next 10 chapters. And the stomach of the Supreme Lord is the 16th chapter. And finally, the last two chapters, 17 and 18, they are compared to the Supreme Lord's lotus feet, 2 feet. So in that sense, entire Bhagavad Gita can be assumed as not different from the Supreme Lord. So that's why reading Bhagavad Gita is so important. We are directly in touch with the Supreme Lord. We are directly in touch with the Supreme Lord. Right? So, and then the Supreme Lord says, you know, Lakshmi, reading one verse of Bhagavad Gita, no, even half verse of Bhagavad Gita, or even a quarter verse of Bhagavad Gita is going to give you so much benefit, which this person Susharma received. So that's what Lord Narayan said. Then Lakshmi ji got curious. Oh, who is this personality, Susharma? Can you narrate that story? So then Lord begins to talk about Susharma's story. I will tell that story in short. Susharma was a Brahmana. This happened in the previous Yuga, long back. So this Susharma, he was a Brahmana, but unfortunately he was not leading a life of a Brahmana. So Brahmana means not something which is a title given to us by our birth, but rather this is something which we need to acquire as a qualification, both in terms of guna and your quality. It is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita clearly. Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam guna karma vibhagasaha. These 4 varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Sudra, how they are determined? They are not determined based on your janma. They are determined based on your guna and karma, your qualities and your activities. If you act like a Brahmana, if your qualities are in accordance to a Brahmanical quality, then you can be called as a Brahmana. So this is emphatically stated in Bhagavad Gita. So, but this personality, Susharma, though born in a Brahminical family, but he did not have those Brahminical qualities. He was leading an impious life, eating anything and everything, and in connection with many women. So he was doing all sinful activities. So at the end of his life, he was bitten by a snake and he passed away. He was taken to the hellish planet. He was punished like anything. And then he was given his next birth as a bull. He took birth as a bull under the supervision of a crooked person. So this crooked person daily beat this bull like anything and extracted so much of work from the bull. The bull was suffering like anything on the hot sun, having to carry the load, which was impractical. But still, this owner of the bull, he was so unkind and he extracted so much of work from the bull, who in the previous life was Susharma. Right? Unfortunately, the bull was about to die because of exhaustion. And as it was about to die, it fell down. And noticing this, many of the villagers who saw this pitiable bull, they felt so bad. Out of compassion, they all came and they wanted to do something good for the bull. So one person started, okay, whatever pious credits that I have, let me pass on a portion of that pious credit to this bull so that it can at least get a good life in the next life. So like that, each and everyone in the village, they were mercifully giving the benedictions to the bull. And in the village, there was one prostitute. So this prostitute had no good qualities. But every day, she had a pet parrot. And this pet parrot used to recite certain verse every day. So this prostitute felt that probably I am getting some pious credit out of hearing that verse. So why not pass that benefit to this bull? So then the prostitute prayed to the Supreme Lord that, okay, whatever little pious credit I have, may that be given to this bull. So immediately the bull passed away, and in the next life, it got into the life of a great Brahmana who was so well educated in the scriptures, and he also remembered his past life. So as soon as he remembered his past life, he went and approached the prostitute. With all submissiveness, he asked, "Oh lady, you were so kind to me. In my previous life, I was a bull, but you gave me a portion of your pious credit, because of which I am qualified to become a Brahmana in this life. Please tell me what pious credit you had." So then the prostitute said, "I don't know. I heard some verses from the scriptures through the mouth of my parrot. Probably we can go and ask my parrot." So then when they went and asked the parrot said, the parrot in turn heard Bhagavad Gita chapter 1 verse through the mouth of a sage. Previous to coming to the prostitute's house, the parrot was residing in a sage's house. There the parrot heard daily Bhagavad Gita chapter 1 verse. And the parrot started reciting, it liked it, so it started reciting that verse. And this prostitute merely heard that verse, because of which the prostitute got so much of pious credit, and she was able to deliver this bull as well. That goes to show how powerful reciting Bhagavad Gita is, hearing Bhagavad Gita is. No need that we have to go and physically read or study Bhagavad Gita. Even if we unknowingly hear Bhagavad Gita verses from somebody else, we are going to get the benefit. What benefit we get, we cannot measure it. Right? So this is something which only the Supreme Lord knows. Right? But definitely we are going to get inexhaustible spiritual credit. That is for sure. So hearing this wonderful Mahima of Bhagavad Gita, the parrot, the Brahmana, as well as the prostitute, all three of them very sincerely started reciting Bhagavad Gita on a daily basis, and at the end of the life, all three of them attained Vaikuntha Loka. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. So that is the power of sincerely studying Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Right? So we can clearly understand from this pastime how Bhagavad Gita has the capability to deliver the fallen conditioned souls from the repeated cycle of material world. Okay. So apart from this repeated cycle of material life, we also have the 6 enemies: the Kama, Krodha, Moha, Lobha, Mada, Matsarya. Right? So what about these? Bhagavad Gita has the capability to cleanse us from these 6 calamities. The Kama are lust, anger, Krodha, greed, Lobha. Mada means arrogance or pride. Moha means attachment, and Matsarya means jealousy. So all these 6 bad qualities which all of us had or are having, we can get rid of them by sincerely studying Bhagavad Gita. In the Bhagavad Gita, prominently it is mentioned that lust, greed, and anger are the 3 enemies. In the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, there is a verse which says that the prominent 3 enemies are lust, greed, and anger. But the other 3, Mada, Moha, and Matsarya, they are the other elements, 3 other elements which also add up to Kama, Krodha, and Lobha. So all put together, these 6 enemies can be got rid of when we sincerely study Bhagavad Gita and apply in our life. Okay, so and finally we are going to see how we can navigate through the shoreless ocean of samsara. The samsara is compared to ocean, Bhavasagara. Right, Sagara means ocean. So how we can cross over this Sagara? Understanding first that we are the last child of the Supreme Lord. We are not supposed to be in this place, but somehow or other we have got into this place. Originally we belong to the Supreme Lord's place, Vaikuntha. So we need to understand that we got lost from the companionship of the Supreme Lord. We came here to this material world. So that is something which we need to understand strongly. After that, realize that this precious human body, it is nothing but a ship. See, imagine we are fallen in the Atlantic Ocean. We don't know swimming. And even if we know swimming, we cannot cross over Atlantic Ocean. It is not so easy. So what do we need? We need a ship. So human body is nothing but a ship. You cannot cross over this Bhavasagara if you are a dog or a cat or a pig. You cannot teach Bhagavad Gita to a dog or a cat or a pig. Only if you are a human life, only if you have a human body, you will be able to understand with your spiritual intelligence that this place is not the place to which you belong to. And you make use of this beautiful ship. And we also have wonderful spiritual master or the acharyas. There are so many acharyas in this Bharata Bhumi. The great acharyas like the Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Nimbargacharya, the Vallabhacharya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, our own dear Srila Prabhupada, so many wonderful acharyas who took birth in this material world only to deliver us. So these spiritual masters, they are compared to the captain of a ship. Unless you have a captain in a ship, you will not be able to sail through. So you require a captain. So take shelter of the captain in the ship. And Bhagavad Gita is compared to favorable wind. So you started to sail along through the Atlantic Ocean. Unfortunately, because you are unaware of the wind direction, you go in the wrong end and you keep circulating within the Atlantic Ocean. You will not be able to reach the shore. So you require a favorable wind and a guiding captain. Right? Bhagavad Gita is compared in the scriptures as a favorable wind. So we need to make use of such favorable wind to cross over this material existence. And what should we do? We need to fix the abode of Supreme Lord Krishna as your home or destination. Like when you go out of your home, you want to reach a destination, you immediately take your mobile phone, launch the Google Maps app, and then you put the destination, right? So similarly, we need to have the focus clear. What is our next destination? I don't want to again take birth in this material world. My destination is to reach the Supreme Lord's abode. If we have that clarity, then we will reach the destination by the grace of the spiritual master and Supreme Lord. And eventually what happens? We get to meet the Supreme Lord face to face, and we get a big hug when we reach the Lord's abode. Vaikuntha Priya Darshanam. When we take darshan of the Supreme Lord, so that is something which is incomparable. So that is achievable when we sincerely practice, study, and follow what is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So we can cross over this mala. We can so it is mentioned that Malanashanam. So basically, we can destroy the contamination in this material world and reach back to the spiritual world. So with that, I will end the session here. Thank you so much. Any questions that any of you have? So let me open the chat box. Okay, so somebody, Ekta Ashrani asked a question. So after going to Vaikunta, there will be no rebirth. We get moksha. Yes, that is right. So Vaikunta is a place, once we reach, we don't have to take birth again. So there is a common misconception in our place in India. So many of us think that when somebody passes away, if he can reach the heavenly abode, then that is the ultimate destination. But unfortunately, that's not the case. Heavenly abode is a place which also comes under the purview of the material world. Now, if you look into the material creation, our planetary system consists of 14 planets, right? So, Bhur, Bhuvasva, Maha, Jana, Tapa, Satyam. So, Satyam is nothing but the Brahma Loka. So, that is the topmost in the upper planetary system. And likewise, there are lower planetary systems as well. Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Mahatala, Rasatala, Talatala, Patala. So these are the 7 lower planetary systems. Earthly planet is exactly in the middle planetary system. So either you go up or you go down in the cycle of 14 planetary systems. Ultimately, we have to take rebirth again. So in the heavenly planets, the life term is definitely quite high. So that is the only benefit, but definitely there is going to be birth and death, even if you go to heavenly abode. So that's why the destination should be that we reach the abode of the Supreme Lord, which is the place called Vaikunta. And when you go there, then there is no need to take birth again. It is clearly mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, Yadgatva Nanivartante Taddhama Paramam Mama. So whoever reaches my dham, Yadgatva na nivartante tad dhama. Whoever reaches my dham, there is no need for that person to go back to the material world. So that is clearly mentioned by Supreme Lord in Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, so that's hopefully answering to the question that was asked. Any other questions? So there is one more question, it seems. Okay, so if a child passes away in road accident, is his soul will struggle more or get immediately moksha? So it doesn't really matter whether it is a child or a grown-up person. The law of nature is quite clear. So the law of nature is that in whatever state of mind you leave your body, that you will achieve. Right? In Bhagavad Gita, in the 8th chapter, it is said, Antakale cha mamyeva smaran muktva kalevaram yaf prayati cha madbhavam. So that is the verse which says, Antakale cha mam eva. In Antakala, at the time of death, in whatever state of consciousness one leaves his body, that is what we are going to achieve in the next life. If we are thinking about our pet dog at the end of the life, most probably we will take the life of a dog in our next life. So nature's law is quite straightforward and clear. There is no discrimination based on the age of the soul which leaves the body. Right? So hope that answers. Any other question? Any of you have? See, one important thing that we need to understand is, see, there are so many scriptures available, authentic scriptures, Vedic scriptures. Veda is like ocean, right? Yesterday I was talking about how Veda is compared to the forest trees. In forest, you could find literally millions of trees, right? So you cannot go and understand each and every tree. So if you can readily get a beautiful flower garland out of these wonderful trees, which is nothing but the essence of all the trees, that is nothing but the Bhagavad Gita. So rather than trying to understand all the different Vedas and Upanishads, if we can sincerely try to study and understand Srimad Bhagavad Gita and practice it in our life, so that is the end of it. Bhagavad Gita is also called Vedanta, the ultimate conclusion of Vedas. That Krishna himself is saying, Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto, matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha, vedaischa sarvair aham eva vedyo, vedanta krit veda vid eva chaham. So Krishna is saying, I am to be known. I am the end of all Vedas. I am the conclusion of all Vedas. If somebody can understand me correctly through the song of Gita, then that is the ultimate perfection. So if somebody can achieve that by sincerely studying Bhagavad Gita and putting things in practice in one's own practical life, so that is the ultimate perfection of life. Okay, so any other questions? Okay, so there is a question. Can you explain this line? If tolerance is virtue, but it is not always right, as mentioned by Krishna, we should always be free from lust, anger, arrogance. Can you explain a bit more, Satya? Let me unmute you. Sorry, Sayam. Yeah.
Namaskara, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
Can you
yeah.
explain
Like
your
I'm
question?
saying that since
Yeah.
yes, yes. I just read this line from one of the like chapter. Like if the tolerance is a virtue, then but it's not always correct. So just what I mean to say that since we should always stay away from the like arrogance, like greediness, then anger, and the other causes which can cause the sins, like which we can get us into sins, which can drag us into sins. But how come then this is related to the tolerance? Like
Right. So before I try to understand, before I try to answer, where exactly did you read this statement that tolerance is virtue? Is it from Bhagavad Gita?
uh, not exactly, but it's like the line of Krishna. Actually, it was like yesterday's. Went to the session also, and
Right.
also the recorded one. So in the end, like I found we were having the question answer round. So from there, it
Right. Yeah. So
I
tolerance,
just
diksha, is definitely a quality to be acquired by a devotee of Lord. There is no doubt. So tolerance is not something. Okay. So if you read through Bhagavad Gita, if you understand Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's statement is quite clear. So when Krishna says to Arjuna that you tolerate, it doesn't mean that you need to tolerate the offenses committed by the Kauravas. When Kauravas tricked the Pandavas by all wrong means and invited them for a fight, Krishna's advice was clearly don't tolerate. But what level of toleration should Arjuna exhibit? So that also Krishna explains. So when Arjuna said that I couldn't fight with these people because they are my kinsmen, I am standing in front of Bhishma, I am standing in front of my Guru, Dronacharya and Kripacharya, I cannot fight with them. And Duryodhana is also my cousin. So this is nothing but material compassion. right? You are only showing compassion towards their body, which the Supreme Lord Krishna does not recommend. When Arjuna says that, no, when I am going to kill them, I am going to lose their company. I will be bereft of Dronacharya and Bhishma Dev's company. How can I survive? For that, Krishna is saying you tolerate. So you don't tolerate injustices done to you. Rather, you tolerate the separation of physical body of your relatives. When somebody close to us pass away, right? Of course, there will be grief, but there is no other way but to tolerate. Right? So in that instance, we need to tolerate. Whereas if somebody hurts us physically or verbally, there is no need for us to tolerate. In that point, we need to respond back. Hope that answers, Prabhu. Yeah, thank you. Tolerance is definitely a quality which we need to acquire. Okay, any more questions? Okay, so before giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is well situated and is happy in this world. Yeah, so that's true. That's a statement from Bhagavad. Thank you, Mayur. Okay, so one last check if there are any final questions. So if not, I'm going to end the session here. Thank you so much for joining the session. Hope you can attend the remaining 4 sessions as well. And at the end of 7th session, you're going to have an MCQ evaluation, which you all can try to attend. And then, of course, a certificate will be issued as well towards the end of the 7th session. And so this Gita Mahatmya is not going to be the end. It is just a beginning in our journey towards understanding Bhagavad Gita. In future, we are going to have many detailed study and understanding of Bhagavad Gita, which will come through ISKCON Chennai's official WhatsApp groups. So you can look forward to that. Yes, Ekta Ashrani, if you can speak out. Any question that you have? I have unmuted you. Yeah.
Yeah. What state of mind should we always be in? Because, death can come anytime.
Right.
So if we want moksha, so what is the state of mind we should be always? What should we keep in our mind when we talk to someone, or so that we don't react so much?
Right.
We should not means जिसका हमारा result मोक्षा ही होना चाहिए बस. What
Right.
state of mind we should be in?
Right. So that's a beautiful question. I will try to answer in few words, but this is something which requires a whole new class in itself, if I have to explain, because it's that sort of a question. In a way, it is the ultimate perfection of somebody who understood and practiced Bhagavad Gita. Right? So, Srila Prabhupada beautifully named this movement as Krishna consciousness, which means our consciousness should be always fixed on Krishna. At the present moment, our consciousness is fixed on anything other than Krishna. Right? I hope you all will agree. Our consciousness is now fixed on how I can earn money, how I can take care of my family, where will I get my next meal from, who will take care of my pet dog, what will happen to my bank balance, to my house. So many thoughts are running in our mind. Our mind is completely contaminated with material consciousness. So with that state of mind, there is every possibility that when somebody leaves his body, he is going to take birth again. So if your mind can be fixed in Krishna consciousness, in the consciousness of thoughts of Krishna, then there is every possibility that you can attain his abode. You can attain moksha. That is possible. The Bhagavad Gita also clearly explains. There is a verse in Bhagavad Gita in the 9th chapter which says, Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mam eva ishyasi satyam te pratijani prayosi me. So you always think about me, you always worship me, you always pay obeisances to me, you render service to me. By doing all this, you can always be with me. So that is a clear statement of guarantee coming from Krishna. If you can make practices, adjustments in your present life in such a way that in your mind you can always think about Krishna, then there is every chance that you will go back to him. Otherwise, it is very difficult. It is easily possible by practicing what is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. Hope that is
Thank you.
answering your question.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So thank you all. So we got a 7-minute delay today, but apologies for that. But I hope it was useful. Thank you so much, and we will meet you again in tomorrow's session. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you.